What's up, it's Coco. Today I'm going to show you how to take a Raspberry Pi and turn it into this little Game Boy type device. It's a fairly easy project for anyone to do, and in this video I'll show you every step of the way and make it along with me. Alright, so for this project you're going to need a few things, most of which are shown here and all of which can be purchased at Adafruit's website, adafruit.com. So the first thing you're going to need is right here. It's a 26-pin GPIO ribbon cable for Raspberry Pi. That'll hold your buttons and such together. You'll also need a 5-volt USB boost at 500 milliamps from 1.8 volts. That's the Power Boost 500. To charge your project, you'll need a micro LiPo charger. You'll also need a working Super Nintendo controller, which you can get at Goodwill or places like that. Make sure you get the right kind. I'll go over that in a moment. You'll also need a 2200 milliamp hour lithium cylindrical battery. That's this thing. This will power your project for you. And to turn on the power, we are going to use an SPDT slide switch. So that's this. It's the 3-prong switch to turn your device on and off. You'll also need a 3D printed case. You can make your case from something else if you don't have access to a 3D printer. And most importantly, you'll need a Raspberry Pi. I use the B model. It works best because it has more memory, more features such as an Ethernet port, dual USB, and such. B Plus will not fit because it is too small for the project. So here is the 2.8 inch 320 by 240 screen. Mine came pre-assembled with these on the back. If it's not pre-assembled when you get yours, just assemble it with the instructions that should come with it. If not, it's not rocket science, you can just figure it out. So there are a few kinds of Super Nintendo controllers. Look for the one that doesn't have the Super Nintendo logo on it, but look for the one that has the raise, start, and select lettering. You need the off-brand to get the correct kind of circuit board. So for this project, you may need a helping hand to help you with soldering stuff. You need a soldering iron. You'll also need some sticky tack as well as hot glue and a couple little screws to hold everything together. So this project, we're going to need to start off by adding a tiny drop of solder right here to jump the 500 milliamp connection, and solder the JST wire. It's the red and black ones with the white connector on the end. You want to solder the black one, which is always going to be ground, to the ground, GND pin, and the red wire to the battery, BAT. Now we're going to cut 3 inches of extra wire, or 8 centimeters if you don't use inches where you're from, and solder the ground wire to the middle part of the switch and the other wire to one of the outside ones, and use shrink wrap on it so the wires don't touch when it's assembled, and short the whole thing out. Now solder the ground wire from the switch, the one that comes from the middle pin, to the GND pin on the Power Boost 500, and the other wire will go to the EN pin. And you want to make sure that you get some clean solder lines that aren't touching because you don't want to short it out. And a clean solder would look like this, where it's all shiny and round. Here's how the power circuit goes together. We're going to plug the LiPo charger into the Power Boost 500 like so. and then the battery is going to be plugged into the LiPo charger, like so. And if everything is done correctly, you should see a green light come on when you flip the switch. Now we're going to prepare the GPIO cable, and we need to cut it first. So face the pinholes towards you with the white wire on top, and then we're going to cut the right side of it. Now separate the wires and then shorten the following wires because they won't be used. Counting down from the white wire, wire 1, 4, 8, 10, 17, 18, 19, and 21 through 26. Now we need to take apart the SNES controller, and we're going to take out the circuit board and remove the L and R buttons and wires. You'll discard those because we won't need them for this project anywho. You're going to cut here and here. I used a file, but a Dremel would be best if you want to keep the buttons and silicone pads as well, because we'll use them for the project. This is what it should look like after cutting. Now you're going to take a scalpel or a box cutter and carefully scrape at the traces to expose the connections I marked in red where to scrape. And these next diagrams are going to show you which wires from the GPIO ribbon cable you are going to solder to which parts of the circuit board. You will have a couple of extra wires, so solder those two wires, wire number 2 to the 5V out pin on the Power Boost 500, and wire number 6 to the open GND pin on the Power Boost 500. This supplies the system with power and makes everything work. Next we're going to test it, so put the screen on and flip the switch, and if the screen turns on, you are doing good so far. Now it's finally time to assemble everything. There are screws you could use, but I just found it easiest to use hot glue. So glue the Power Boost and the LiPo charger to the housing. It may be tricky to find a place for all of the wires to fit, but don't give up, because it doesn't have to look good on the inside, and it'll all fit. Once you get everything in nice and snugly, use sticky tack to attach your board where you want the buttons, and slip the front cover on and off to center the silver circles where the buttons go. Last but not least, you're going to push the GPIO ribbon cable into the TFT screen and attach it all to the Raspberry Pi, like so. You may have to use a little bit of force, but be careful not to bend the pins. Now test it, make sure everything's still working. Throw the front cover on, screw it on together with 4 number 6 to 32 by 1/2 inch screws. Final thing before you can play it, you must switch to landscape mode. To do this, attach a USB keyboard, type exactly this. After pressing F3, use login Pi, password Raspberry. The password may not show up, but trust it and press enter. Now type this exactly. Now change the frequency, the FPS, and rotate to match this. After you've done this, turn off the system for a few seconds, turn it back on, and wait for the boot screen. If it isn't sideways anymore, you did this right and can now put your programmed SD card in and play. In another video, I will show you how to program your SD cards for your Raspberry Pi. For now, there's a link in the description for Adafruit's project instructions, so enjoy it and have fun.